Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
You know, we're in warmer weather now. Lots of people are looking at different designs, changing things up in their living space, their workspace. We're going to talk about how to do that, who to call upon for that, but even somebody who also can do an entire build for you and help work on that project. I can personally tell you in my history, I made a mistake by not hiring designers, interior designers, people to just look at a project. I did a lot of it myself. I don't know what I'm doing. She does. Christy Reyes Howell is with us, and she's an amazing interior designer, does green remodels, high performance designs, and she's with us. Welcome. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yeah, lots to talk about. Maybe bust some of the misconceptions as to what somebody like you does. And why don't we start with the interior design? So you're
Okay.
available for consultation, could be virtually, could be in person. What are some of the things you work on? What are some of the things maybe you're working on lately?
Well, my consults can last anywhere from like an hour to 3 hours, and it really just depends on how involved we get with the conversation. I love to do in-person meetings simply because I can really see the space. I'll get up in your attic if I have to, if it's kind of a remodel. I look inside the cabinets. It just kind of depends on the design scope that they want, but we go over the scope, we go over budget, we go over desires, if they have Pinterest or house pages, things like that that kind of help me see their visual that they are trying to achieve. But yeah, we start there with a consult. Zoom consults are much newer for me since COVID, but they've become more energizing and actually more eager to get to that space. It's almost like you can't touch it. You want to touch it. You want to see it in person.
Sure. Where do you find that people go wrong when it comes to interior design? If they don't hire somebody, if they try to do it themselves, do they oftentimes like waste money?
They can to some degree. I think there's sometimes some misconceptions, even some, just myths out there that say, DIY is great and wonderful. It's very it's very inspiring to do something like that and get it done yourself. But having a consultant or a designer come in and just kind of help you understand the process becomes something that they think something should go before something else, but then they don't understand why, flooring could go down first and then you put cabinets on top and, the holes or the gaps that you might run into or the
Mm.
material cost factor that you didn't order. There's a plethora of things. And I think just kind of having a consult or a designer come in to either just lead you along the process if you really want to do a DIY or just kind of help you understand the scope and processes will be very imperative to your budget dollars.
So to illustrate your point, true story. I'm going to say it was, let's see, 8 years ago.
Okay.
I had bought a house 2 years before, was going to renovate the backyard. The interior was pretty good. They had recently redone it before they sold it to me. They had a small fire, so things were redone. Backyard, I wanted to make it tropical. I was going to make this whole just amazing vacation like feel, took down trees, done all of that.
Hmm.
I did a little bit of the work myself, managed the whole thing. I was working very early hours doing morning radio at that time. I've been doing it a long time, but it was a challenge then. Fitting that all in, family and everything, gave myself an ulcer. I'm not legit.
Seriously?
Can't make it up.
I'm sorry.
It
Oh
was
my
just,
gosh, that's the worst. Sometimes people will ask and say, "How do you do this every day?" And I'm like, "It's just communication. It's just education. It's just kind of being patient. It's really a lot of that. And then just wanting to problem solve. Because honestly, nothing is perfect. And there's so unknowns in remodels. There's so many different things that we want to know, but we have to learn sometimes by mistakes to really understand what we're doing.
oh, I did. I definitely learned. There's no doubt about that. When you think of all the aspects involved, even interior design, there's so many different pieces like you identified, cabinets that don't open the right way. The cabinet opens here, then hits let's say hits the door of the oven. We're not even thinking about that stuff. When I was doing the backyard, I had to make sure the trees were cleared out, topsoil, Then we have the pavers. Then we had the pergola. Then we had the pool put in. Then I had to do this, and I run wires, trench wires, which is fun. I like doing that, but not all the other stuff. When you add it all up, it's a lot of work. Should have hired somebody.
It is.
Anyway,
Well, it is a lot of work, and it's really kind of, I love I have a lot of clients who do their DIYs, but they call me if they're like, hey, I'm not quite sure, or I've got this contractor who's kind of giving me some information. Do you kind of, and I'm absolutely, and even if it's slightly different, maybe information than that contractor, I don't ever try to make make it appear that that contractor is doing something wrong. They just may have another process that gets you to the same place,
hmm
and it's just in how they work. So there's several best practices in our industry as a designer and as a builder, and you just kind of, it's like trade-offs. It's like you can get one thing that's really solid and valuable, but you might not be able to get this other thing. So let's kind of process how that looks long term and see what you're willing to, feel comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, it's still a dollar spent. It's still someone else coming into your home, and it's still, just you got to finish it. So you want to finish it to the most positive outcome that you can get.
so we're talking about interior design. We're going to look at builds and plans and all of that. Interior design. What's your favorite room to work on?
Oh my Lord. I love tile work. So I'd probably say bathrooms. I love
Wow.
really interesting tile work. I've done some very simple tile work in my day, but very interesting tile work. I have a favorite designer out of Brooklyn who does really awesome, custom design work. And if I could get her work in every project, I would, just because she's just get beautiful designs and stuff. But tile work is fun, and lighting. Like you can put lighting in every room, so that's
Mhm.
hard to say which room, those have been my two favorite, pieces of a design aspect to bring in. But flow, like the function and flow, when you look at the floor plan before you even start your slab, before you even start your footings, it's like, let's look at the flow. And that's where I really loved that part, is just kind of taking care of the flow when it comes, because architects are great at what they do. They're very good at the details and the orientation of things, but not all things flow in a more aesthetic and kind of personable people way. What works for a 6 foot tall man doesn't work for a 5 foot tall woman. And so there's egress and there's heights and there's things like that that you kind of want to talk about and just work through before you really kind of sign on that dotted line and be like, this is my perfect floor plan. It's going to be great for me, and it really can be. But just a few tweaks wouldn't don't hurt to have someone come in that's kind of got that background or knowledge of plan to actual in space.
Tile is having a moment, isn't it? Like
Sorry.
there's tile is having a moment. Like there's
Oh,
so many different types, even smaller tiles. Um,
mhm.
I don't know all the different.
Wallpaper.
I was just going to say
Also,
wallpaper. Yeah,
wallpapers come back with a vengeance, and I love it.
it's not your grandmother's wallpaper, and some wallpaper even looks like tile.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, it's beautiful. Mhm.
How do you make a decision in terms of what to use? Should I use tile? Should I use wallpaper? Or do you ask the homeowner what their thoughts are?
That's exactly. I go to the homeowner, and now I ask a lot of questions. In that early consult, there's tons of questions, and then I sometimes ask even more further questions from that as we continue the process. But I always like to ask, how do you want to use this? How do you want to clean it? How
Mm,
do you not want to work with it? Like I ask the things that they almost like kind of have to go back and, I don't know. Let me go live what I'm doing again and make note and think about, and so then they go back and then they process like, I didn't even think about that. Oh my gosh, that's, thank you for processing that little tiny whatever it might have been. Some people don't recess their showers in their slabs. Their slabs are just straight. Well, then you have a curb in your shower. And if you want ADA capabilities for longevity, well, we don't want to have to go trench your concrete out in your shower just to get you an ADA walk-in. The plans need to say recessed shower pan so that we can come in and do what we need to do
mm.
for an ADA capability future use. And that's kind of part of the design. It's like let's think about 20 years down the road. Let's not think 20 years for 2 months down the road, but let's think 20 years down the road and let's just kind of put one little, oh gosh, if this was to happen to us, what would make our lives a little easier if we just had this? That might be more expensive to do later on. So it's little simple thoughts, but trade-offs, 100%. You have to talk about the trade-offs.
This is the stuff that we as homeowners, we're not even thinking about. We're standing in the shower. I forget what they're called, but where it's in,
Niches?
thank you.
It's a
Inset,
niche.
right. Where
Yeah.
you can put shampoo and stuff in there, whatever. Is that still a thing?
Uh-huh. Oh, it is. They're beautiful. And they're not so small little niches anymore. They're like the whole wall. It's so
Mm.
gorgeous. And like you can put all you want. You can put candles and then you put your stuff, put your shampoos and then, they're gorgeous now. They've always been gorgeous because you can put an accent material in the back of that niche and,
Mm.
make it really unique. So yeah, there's always lots of fun things to do with niches. And I've even gone as far as where you put a little niche at the bottom of the shower floor for if you don't have, if you need to shave your legs. So those women who want to put their foot up on a little niche up a little bit higher instead if you don't have a bench, you just put your foot up and then it's easier and you're not having to hold your leg up in the shower almost falling.
What a great idea. I'm a guy. Obviously, I'm not going to think of that, but I mean, if you're a woman, what are you going to put your leg on?
If you don't have a bench, right? Yeah, it's like
Right.
just
Yeah.
and yeah, and so they're just little things to think about.
Wow. Um, my my home, because it was previously done, the one I'm referring to, excuse me, it was done in HD. I don't know,
Okay.
I don't know if you know what HD is, but for me, that's Home Depot. It's where,
Yeah.
where they got a lot of the stuff. And therein lies some of the challenges. You get what you pay for. So I'm bringing this up because in the shower, it was nice. They did a great job. Didn't have a niche in there, should have. However, the tile on the floor, it was stand-up shower. The top of the tiles would start coming off because it was not higher quality. So I would, I'd say, oh, another little piece, and then throw that on, another little piece, then throw that on. You got to start with decent quality. It's not about, somebody making money. It's if you want, like you say, the longevity, you're going to get what you pay for, right?
You really do. And I do a lot of Home Depot HD shopping as well, but I definitely consider those trade-offs. Not to discount any of the box store products and
Sure.
items by any means, but sometimes the inner parts are just maybe more plastic than they would be if you went to your large manufacturer store. But again, they're all very valuable within their respective project. When you have remodels or if you have houses that you flip and it's a tenant, you're not going to want to necessarily spend an extra $20 on a faucet every 2, 3 years because they damage that faucet. Just get the less expensive faucet if they're going to damage that faucet because it's a college frat house or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
You have to consider those trade-offs. So I think there's a space for all of our product for the most part in a lot of our projects, but it's really kind of needs to come down to we think that things are unaffordable. We're just not educated enough to really know how affordable things can be, and then also to realize those trade-offs. Like we're not gonna. I used to talk about this triangle. It's like you get quality, you get cost, and then you get time. And there's no way where you're going to get all three. You can get really good quality, and it might take you a little bit of time. No, you can get really good quality, might take you a lot of time, and it might cost a little bit more. But if quality is what you care about, that's where you get the quality. You're never going to get something done fast, and it's going to be done quickly. Just it's just not. And there's another saying: skilled labor is not cheap. Cheap labor is not skilled. So you pay for what you get. And I've been doing this for 20 years at times, and I'm just like, and I've made a few mistakes where it's like, okay, I want to go for that budget cost. I want to go for that budget cost. And I go and I'm like, oh, now I'm either finding another contractor to fix another contractor, or I'm finding, ways to resolve something that maybe we didn't know about because of communication. There's always levels of resolutions. You just have to find them. and communicate them.
And not to pan, HD, you can find some decent stuff there. There's different levels, but for the rest of
Yeah,
us, we're not really sure what we're getting. Even in the
yeah.
faucet. Let's talk about faucets, kitchens, things like that. Have you seen some of the faucets that they have out now where you can make your coffee in it? You don't even have to have a coffee maker on the
Mhm.
counter. You just put a pot in, like
Yeah, it's
next to
like
your
an
faucet.
instant hot water.
Yeah, yeah.
Or you need filter water. You don't have in your refrigerator, and it's an
Right.
instant, filtered water. Yeah, they're making a lot of cool features. Even kind of the touch free or the motion for residential spaces, so you have a more clean approach to you don't you were touching chicken and cutting chicken, and you can't you don't want to touch the faucet, so you kind of just hit it
Mm.
with your or you motion it, and you don't have to touch anything. But yeah, the innovation. What's funny is I was just doing a survey yesterday for NKBA, and just talking about all the different kitchen and bath designs and things that will be coming up in the next 3 years, and innovation to plumbing fixtures and appliances are a big, are a nice push.
Mm.
Hmm.
It's exciting. If you have the budget for it, to look at some of these different things.
Hmm.
On the design side of things, kitchens, anything that stands out for you, any suggestions, somebody thinking, about redoing their kitchen, any initial thoughts you have there, or some cool features that you've come across?
Ooh, gosh. I'm just I like to get inspired by my clients and what they get, energized with. I'm kind of like I like a lot. I like a lot of different things. I love the really eclectic kitchens that have just layers and textures and patterns. And then I like that really clean, modern, just white and black, clean, crisp, So I don't know that I could say anything that is just
Hmm.
very, just out of the blue for me. I
What's
like
in
to be
what's in
interested.
now in terms of color? There was a time where everything white in the kitchen was big. I don't know if that still is.
Naturals are becoming. So our wood tones, our
Okay.
naturals, our earth tones. Yeah, those. I have never wanted to get rid of wood tones in the kitchen, but we went all white, 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 shaker style.
Mm.
Still very beautiful, transitional. But I love that we're bringing in the natural woods and keeping that wood earth vibe. Indoor outdoor feel.
Is it when we talk about the natural woods, is it more of there was a time where it was darker woods, like I want to say maybe mahogany, just darker
Like an
woods.
espresso or
Eh,
mahogany.
Right.
Yeah.
So are we talking
Yeah. No,
now like the
this year,
medium?
yeah, more medium color tones, lighter color tones, the natural, the more just raw look, the raw feel, but still finished, still kind of protected. Those
Gotcha.
are pretty big. Even the kind of the pecan, that old kind of orangey color,
Yeah.
that's really kind of starting to come back in a little bit because it's kind of like when mustard came back in, I was like, oh, I love it. And when emerald came back in, I was like, oh, I love it. It's like the jewel tones kind of started to come back in from the 80s sort of or 70s. I loved it, but I still love the white and the black and the blush and the mauves, lavenders, all of it. But as a designer, that's kind of part of my child. The designer part of me is like my child. See, like I still get my kid side of me. The builder side of me, the ICF, the high performance construction is like the adult side of me. So I
Gotcha.
get to play with both.
Let's talk about that side of you, the designer side. ICF, what does that stand for?
Insulated concrete forms. I don't know if the people will be able to see this, but it's a block. It looks like a Lego block. Um, this is kind of one
Oh,
that's just
okay.
a little smaller. This is a 90. But basically, this is kind of like a mini size to what they are actually, like that one.
Sure.
But basically, it's continuous insulation on the inside and on the outside of the structure. This is exterior walls only. And then you throw concrete and rebar on the inside, and it's pretty much like a basement or a storm shelter above ground. We can cap them with concrete as well to give them that more structural resiliency. Um, they're awesome structures and they're fun. I love them. Very efficient.
Wow. Wow. Why don't they do that as standard? I'm looking at that. you have to set up forms anyway when you like you're making a foundation. Now you have the insulation around it.
This is like seven trades in one. Like when it takes 5 to 7 different trades to produce your exterior wall, this is one trade, one product. One takes maybe, depending on the size of the house, you can pour a 2,000 square foot house and all the exterior walls and everything's done in one day.
So with that, is that are we talking about the entire wall, or is it just foundation, or can it be just foundation?
You still have to do your process for your foundation. You let that, pour that, secure that. Depending on if you do as your monolithic or post tension, depends on your slab and if your structure there. You can throw these onto your footing and then let your slab be poured separately interiorly, which then gives you kind of your slabs its own entity, but still sealed and and protected. But then these go on the exterior wall, which then is connected to the foundation, which is inside the ground, which then makes it very structurally sound. I don't ever want to see a homeowner go through a tornado in our area. But what really blew my mind and what made me fall in love with this is I've lived in Oklahoma since I was 10. And then, but I lived in England 5 years before that. So it was very, very different culture shock and weather and
Seriously.
all of that.
Uh,
Um, yeah. But I think it was 2014 or 15. I think it was Hurricane Michael, may have been Katrina. There was a house on the East Coast that was still standing on its stilts, all in this white block. And you're like, what is this white house with, like, it's still standing. There's nothing level. Everything is leveled on the sides of it. And then I found out it was a block, it was ICF block, and I'm like, what in the world? That is hurricane was standing, tornado, high winds. And then the structure that was immediately behind it was still fairly like safe and secure. It didn't take like that building took all the damage, but everything else around it was leveled. So my parents had wanted to build a home, and I said, well, go look at what this is. I would love to build this. I don't know what I'm doing or what, I've never done it before, but if you'll do the research, if you think you would like it, I will learn how to build it and you guys can be my guinea pig. um, and they were like, let's do it. Like, we like it. Well, it's our forever home. Things like that. Let's figure that out. So my first house was a 2,500 square foot house, 34 under roof. Their hottest electric bill in Oklahoma is not over 110, maybe 115 a month. Other 2,500 square foot houses in Oklahoma see $300, $400 electric bills in the same month. So
wow.
it's like just, and then insurance is starting to provide benefits to fortified and structurally sound homes. You can get anywhere from 18 to 20% discount on your insurance. That's lifetime. Um, there's just so many benefits that I don't think we're just not talking enough about them, and I want to talk so much till like blue in the face. But that's kind of where it's like just education and understanding kind of the benefits that are long term is where the value comes in. The cost is not. I'm not going to say that it's majorly expensive. It's not cheaper by any means, but it's almost equal. Here, we've ran some, here, I'll tell you this, in COVID times, in the strongest time of COVID, Texas was building a few ICFs. And at that time, an ICF house was 2% less in cost compared to wood for the house build. Now that's kind of gone a little bit down because wood's come back down and it's kind of tried to level back out. It's definitely not gone back to what we were used to before, but it's kind of made concrete and ICF and construction to that degree a little bit more competitive is when you think about the benefits that are long term. It's not going to cost us any cheaper or less. It's in essence going to be equal at the time of build.
So looking at that, are we framing the house at all, or that's it?
Yeah, you're still framing. You
Still
can
framing.
use trusses to sit on top of you can even gable this up. You can gable ICF up, and then you kind of, and then there's just different things. You have to demise your attic depending on how your envelope is set on your house with your roof line and your, everything else. But yeah, you're doing standard stick framing, wood framing inside the interior walls. Everything else is still in a commercial setting, you do metal framing. Yeah, it's all still very similar and the same.
What a cool idea. Didn't even know it existed. And I love the fact that there's insulation on both sides of it. That's fantastic. We're out of time. Yeah. I could keep going. We have lots to talk about.
Oh my gosh.
Seriously. Christy, how do we find you? We're talking about even the interior design portion, which you can do anywhere, as we said. How do we find you?
Well, you can find me on my website, www.crhdb.com. Also, you can text to me at 405-818-5115. And that's, you can catch me there. You can also email me if you're interested at Christy, Christy, at crhdb.com. Otherwise, Instagram, Facebook, CRH Design Build, LinkedIn, CRH Design Build. I try to keep those tags very similar so it's easy to catch me. But also Christy Reyes Howell, you can just DM me straight there on Facebook. You
are so versatile. There's a lot of designers out there, but you also have your hand on the build and the planning and all of that, which we'll get to next time we get together. Thanks for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you. I hope we get to talk about workforce development too, because that's a whole nother strong place that I'd love to talk to you about.
I wrote it down. We never got to it.
I know. We'll get to it.
Next time.
Thank you. Next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.